Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our update webinar with Silver Viper. I'm Derek Macpherson, the Vice President of Research here at Red Cloud. With me on the call is Steve Cope, the CEO and Director of Silver Viper. Just as a reminder, this is the first in our series of weekly webinars that we're going to be doing every Thursday at 2 o'clock. Every week, we'll either be highlighting a company like Silver Viper or Red Cloud's research team will discuss an important trend in the mining industry. So I guess set your calendar reminders to be here every week at 2 o'clock. For today's webinar, the format's going to be Steve will provide a brief overview on Silver Viper and discuss the recent drilling success. And then after that, we'll take questions live from the audience. And you can, in the chat window, you can submit your questions, and we'll answer as many as we can in the time allotted. To get started, we'll handle the disclosures, and then we'll get to Steve's presentation. For Silver Viper, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of Silver Viper's corporate presentation, located in the investor section of the company's corporate website. For Red Cloud Securities, please see the full disclaimers and disclosures on our recent Silver Viper note on our website that was published on Monday on the back of the recent drill results. And I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Specifically related for Red Cloud to Silver Viper, in the last 12 months, Red Cloud's been retained under a service or advisory agreement by Silver Viper. In the last 12 months, Red Cloud has received compensation for investment banking services, and Red Cloud, or a member of the Red Cloud team, has a long position in shares of Silver Viper. Just before I turn it over to Steve, I'll briefly mention why I'm excited about Silver Viper. We published our initiating coverage report just before Christmas, and obviously the good drill results were out recently. First, La Virginia is very prospective. It has the potential to yield a major gold-silver discovery. I think we've seen that in the initial drill results, and we like what we've seen based on this success and the historic. Second, management is in the business of finding, advancing, and selling deposits and working on what producers want. They've done it multiple times, and they know what they're good at, and they have no intention of becoming miners. So I think this disciplined approach and how they allocate capital is important, and makes me trust them with my money. So for additional details on our view on Silver Viper and why we think it's worth 80 cents a share as it stands now, see our initiation report published on December 18th, and Josh will stick the link up for that. So now I'm going to turn it over to Steve to talk about Silver Viper, where Silver Viper is today, and what the next milestones are. Steve?
All right. Thank you, Derek. I would like to welcome and thank everyone for taking time to listen to today's presentation. I'm very pleased to be here today to present and share the Silver Viper story with you. I'm very proud of what we've been able to achieve as a group in a very short period, and I believe this is one of the best exploration companies in the mining sector. I would also like to thank Red Cloud Securities for the opportunity and for their coordination and assistance with today's presentation. We are living in interesting times, and the recent rise in commodity prices has reconfirmed our thoughts that the precious metals market is in the beginning of a bull market. There's going to be more and more pressure on the major mining companies to replace reserves as time moves on. It is becoming exceedingly more difficult to find new ounces to not only keep up with demand, but to replace what is being produced. The majors have always relied on companies like ours to find the deposits, and with a lack of recent discoveries in our space, it makes our discovery at the La Virginia project stand out amongst our peers. It also explains why multiple majors are already under CA and trying to figure out how to get involved. Silver Viper is exactly the type of exploration company investors should be trying to get exposure to, and I hope after today's presentation, you will understand why. As Derek already mentioned, this slide contains our forward-looking statements and cautionary note to U.S. investors. We have a unique company and organization. Silver Viper's management team is part of the Belcara Management Group, an organization comprised of technical and capital markets professionals in the mining industry. There are 4 independent public companies under our management. This model allows us to share G&A costs across the board, which in turn means more money goes into the ground. Our model focuses on exploration, and as such can draw on the depth of knowledge of our 4 in-house senior geologists with their 150 years of combined experience in the field to identify mining opportunities which we can advance and provide maximum shareholder value. We are the same team recognized for the discovery of Orco Silver Corp's La Preciosa silver gold deposit in Durango, Mexico, which began as a grassroots project, proved up over 270 million ounces of silver, and sold to Coeur Mining for over $350 million in a bidding war with First Majestic. One of our major strengths is our special working partnerships and working relationships with major mining companies. Proof of this is our partnerships with Agnico Eagle, Pan American, Coeur Mining, Fresnillo, and Hecla. We have always had a reputation of being one of the best exploration groups in the sector. There are many things to look at when investing. You want to see a strong management team, quality asset, good share structure, strong investors backing the company, and potential near-term catalysts. This slide serves as an excellent summary of why we have all these things, but I would like to dig deeper into the individual points as we move through our presentation. Moving along to our capital structure, we have a low share count, under 60 million shares outstanding and only 70 million on a fully diluted basis. Management owns over 28% and the institutions combine for over 50%. This creates a large, solid investor base that are not interested in trading in the short term. They are interested in the gains that come from growing and developing an asset into something the majors are interested in. We recently completed a financing in September, which was oversubscribed, and we hard capped at $4 million Canadian, though we could have raised significantly more. 85% of the financing was institutional, of which 80% was new institutions. Both the IPO and the financing were done at 25 cents, so we have the majority of our shareholders priced around that level. Management holds options at 25 cents and warrants were issued at 35 cents on the recent financing. Exercise of these would generate an additional $3.5 million to the treasury, which currently sits at $3.5 million. Silver Viper's initial project was the La Clemente Gold Project in northern Sonora. However, after a first round of exploration, our team decided to discontinue further work and preserve capital as it did not meet our model at the time. Around that time, we were approached by a private project generator group out of Mexico who introduced us to La Virginia, an exciting project approximately 220 kilometers east-northeast of Hermosillo, Sonora, and covered over 37,700 hectares of consolidated claims. The project was originally identified in 2007 by Minefinders as they were searching the trend for another Dolores-style deposit. It is a large exploration property, primarily prospective for fault-controlled, low-sulfidation epithermal precious metals mineralization. What drew us to the project was the historical assays, the exploration potential, and the story of why it might be available. The group from Mexico had a poor relationship with Pan Am. The reason for this was under the option agreement, they weren't entitled to any of the data from the drilling programs. Minefinders had only made the first 50 holes public by the time Pan American acquired them, and after that, Pan Am never released any of the remaining 138 holes that were drilled on the project. We realized that given our good working relationship with Pan Am, that there was an opportunity for us to get involved and put the two claims groups back together. A small portion of the project was explored and drilled extensively by both operators, Minefinders and Pan American. The project contains two claims groups, the external claims from Pan Am, which we acquired 100% of for a 2% NSR, and the internal claims named Ruby Esperanza, which we have the right to purchase 100% interest upon completion of a US $3 million escalating tranches over 3 years. You can see how heavily back-end loaded the agreement is, as it was designed to allow us to put the majority of the money into the ground before having to make a decision on whether or not the project would warrant a larger payment. Of note is also at our discretion that half of that final payment can be made in cash or shares. There is also a 2% NSR on the Ruby Esperanza claims, which we can purchase for $2 million US within 5 years of the effective date, or $3 million after the 5th anniversary. Gold and silver mineralization at La Virginia occurs within breccias, veins, stockworks hosted primarily by andesitic volcanics, often in close spatial association to or cross-cutting pre-mineral dacite dikes, and controlled by fractures and faults that define the regional structural trend. Since acquiring the project, Silver Viper's reconnaissance program has identified key targets and trends which are of primary interest. The company completed a phase 1 diamond drilling in late 2018 on 5 target areas totaling 4,753 meters in 20 drill holes and completed regional exploration programs of stream sediment sampling, geological prospecting traverses, and soil sampling. The regional program to date has resulted in a collection of over 1,600 soil samples and rock chip samples across the largely unexplored property. Results from this program have helped identify multiple anomalies that we hope will turn into discoveries after they are drilled. Drilling by the company to date builds upon a sizable database including 52,635 meters of drill core from 188 diamond drill holes generated by the efforts of previous operators between 2010 and 2013. We are currently drilling our Phase 2 program, which is focused on the El Ruby discovery made in Phase 1. The main geological feature in the region are these regional faults that run for tens of kilometers. You can see these represented on the image on the far left, as those fault structures are the black lines that look like rail tracks. The mineralized trend seems to run parallel to these faults, and we can follow it for the same distances on surface by following the silicified dikes. In many areas, there are also multiple parallel dikes present. The historical drilling completed in the past by Pan Am and Minefinders before them was only focused on a small portion of the project. In total, approximately $10 million was spent covering over 52,000 meters of drilling in the 188 holes in the La Virginia main area of the project between 2010 and 2013. You can see by year when all that drilling was completed. In the Comberginia and Las Huatas areas, they are low sulfidation epithermal quartz zones, where the best mineralization once again occurs along flexures in the structures. Minefinders reported significant drill results here, reporting 23.5 meters of 900 silver equivalent and 18 meters of almost 400 silver equivalent. As you can see in the image in the bottom left, all of the historical core is stored in our facility in Hermosillo. You can also see an example of some stockwork veining in an old working in the Comberginia zone. This slide is an example of some of the assays that drew us to this project. This table is reflective of the Comberginia zone. The numbers get even better as we turn the page and look at the highlights from the Las Huatas zone. Las Huatas yielded some spectacular results with some very nice widths and high grades. The image on the right here also gives you an idea of the terrain in the Las Huatas area of the project. The following image is a preliminary outline of wireframes for which our initial maiden resource will be prepared. There exist several unexplored targets in the gaps between where the historic work was completed and where the El Ruby discovery was made 5 kilometers away. With that being said, our current focus is on expanding the El Ruby discovery zone as we see being able to add the most ounces there. The bulk of that expansion will happen moving to the north of this image. El Ruby is located 5 kilometers north of the La Virginia historic drilling area. Prior to Silver Viper's initial drill program and discovery just over a year ago, it had never been properly explored. That means no mapping, no sampling. It was completely ignored. It seems mineralization is structurally controlled and the fault is an offset continuation of Las Huatas and La Virginia mineralized trend. Initial observations indicate mineralization may continue up to 1 kilometer south and at least 2 kilometers north along strike. Silver Viper's Phase 1 drilling program in 2018 at La Virginia included 5 drill holes in this El Ruby target. Highlight hits are reflected in holes 200 through 204, which can be seen on the following page. One thing that is very important to pay attention to is that we use man-portable rigs, which are very mobile. This allows us to easily move around the project and leave a very low environmental footprint. We are fully permitted to drill all over the project. We continue to focus on expanding the El Ruby discovery along strike and at depth. To date, we have drilled 11 holes into the target and released assays for the first 8. Every hole has hit multiple zones of mineralization as well as at least one high-grade zone, which can be seen in holes 209 through 211. It is important to note that this table only reflects the best results from the holes. For example, all 3 holes in this week's news release hit 4 separate zones of significant mineralization. With the identification of 3 major new anomalies and a parallel trend never drilled, El Ruby shows potential for significant expansion. Below, you will note the images from the soil surface program, including reconnaissance mapping, soil sampling, and prospecting. Most of this prospecting has occurred over the last year after the El Ruby discovery. We are quite pleased with the results and are currently following up on the northern half of the image to tighten up the spacing and further develop the understanding of the anomaly in the northeast. Even though this is only a small portion of the project, it is a very large area, with size potential that majors are looking for in a deposit. El Ruby is also a favorable location because from where we made the discovery to the northern anomaly is a 2-kilometer long plateau. You can see examples of the silicified dikes which run parallel for kilometers in the following images. This was identified by our 2018 reconnaissance soil chemistry. Gold and silver mineralization are associated with those dikes. We plan to add an additional rig in Q1 that will be putting 4 to 5 holes in each of the anomalies, similar to what we did El Ruby in Phase 1. Macho Libre will be the first target that we test with that additional rig. La Gloria is located 5 kilometers north of El Ruby along that same north-south regional structure. That being said, it is a different beast. La Gloria sits in a 3 kilometer by 3 kilometer zone of alteration. We have completed 2 shallow test holes to date and have noticed interesting signatures of moly, copper, and precious metals. All early indications point to this being a porphyry. At this time, it is not the main area of focus, but it is of interest and speaks to how active the overall system is at La Virginia. Additional geophysics are planned in the surrounding area, which should provide information which will be evaluated and assessed moving forward. We are planning to conduct preliminary metallurgical testing in Q1 of this year. Early indication has shown silver sulfides of acanthite and argentite and alloyed as electrum. This is very common for low sulfidation epithermal systems, and we don't expect there to be any issues with metallurgy. In December, we commenced on phase 2 of our exploration program with the intent of building upon the new discovery at El Ruby. To this end, we reported the first 3 holes, which were announced on Monday. Results were extremely encouraging, and we reported multiple high-grade gold and silver mineralized zones. This certainly is warranted continuation of the program to include additional drilling and geophysics. We expect steady news flow moving forward with news releases approximately every 3 weeks in batches of roughly 3 to 5 holes at a time. In summary, Silver Viper is a junior exploration company which is fundamentally poised for future growth as the company has the necessary characteristics to help achieve this goal. High-quality asset, new discovery, proper location and jurisdiction, team that can deliver, major blue sky, large shareholder support, funds to advance the asset. Finally, I'd like to once again thank you all for attending today's webinar and to Red Cloud Securities for their support. Should you have any questions or need additional information, please do not hesitate to contact us anytime. We look forward to hearing back from you. We will keep you informed of our progress along the way. Thank you very much for your time, and now we would like to open the system up to any questions you may have.
All right, thanks, Steve. That's a very quick run through, but very thorough. I guess we'll start with a couple of questions that were sent in prior to the release. This one pertains to potentially expanding beyond the phase 2 program. You mentioned in the press release that with success you could expand the program. If you are going to expand it, what does that? Can you maybe give us an idea of what that looks like, and then do you have the cash in hand to fund that?
Yes, I think we alluded to it a bit during the presentation, but we are planning on adding a second rig based on the success that we've had. We'd like that rig to be targeting those regional exploration anomalies that have been identified in the El Ruby area. That'll allow us to have one rig to continue to expand Ruby while another can do some of the larger moves and mobilizations into some of those targets and potentially make new discoveries at the same time that we're following up and hopefully continue to hit the types of results we've been hitting at El Ruby. We announced phase 2 as a preliminary 5,000 meter program, but have always kind of stated that based on success, that phase would just continue on. So from the financing we did, we would be covered to do probably around 20,000 meters of drilling with that $4 million financing. So that more than covers us for that preliminary phase 2, and we shouldn't be having to go back to the market unless an opportunity presents itself in the shorter term.
And maybe I guess these early results, the first 3 holes from the phase 2 program, is that what success looks like to bring on that rig? Or I guess obviously you have 3 holes in the can as well, or are those holes supporting your view as well that you're going?
Yeah, I mean we've released 8 assay holes for El Ruby. We had 5 in our phase 1, and then these 3, which all were expansion holes. I mean, I guess every hole that we're going to be drilling at this point is an expansion hole, either at depth or along strike. This is certainly what success looked like for us. I mean, I think this is a fantastic start to developing El Ruby and ultimately trying to produce a resource there at some point this year, sooner than later. If we keep putting out 4 zones of results like that, I think that resource will come a lot sooner. And in that resource, we'd also incorporate all the historic drilling that was done at Las Huacas in Virginia.
So perhaps maybe hitting on that resource topic, what do you view as a timing for that maiden resource, and then which it's going to cover the historic and El Ruble? Is that the plan at this point?
That's the plan now. We've started work on an internal resource, looking at the historic stuff and where we're at. We're happy with how that work is going, but we believe for the cost of what a resource would look like, we'd probably better served getting some work done at Ruby and bringing that into the maiden resource as opposed to just going out on the historic stuff. I believe we expect it to come out this year, and hopefully, in possibly the first half or maybe into the third quarter would be probably the goal at this point. Okay. Again, a lot of that's going to be driven by results at the same time as well. So, right. But adding a rig, that's going to do nothing but expedite that process as well.
So obviously this initial success at El Ruble, potentially if you add that second rig, one rig dedicated there, and then the other rig stepping out and testing other targets. What are some of those other targets that you'll be looking at?
So we're definitely gonna be starting at Macho Libre. It's definitely the easiest to get the rig into, just the way the road system works, and it sits a kilometer along the same structural trend south of El Ruby, so it's an obvious target to hit right off the bat. From there, right now the plan is to move to the eastern anomaly after that, and then if we've gotten our results back from tightening the spacing in that northeast anomaly and the northern anomaly, then the rig would move on to there.
Okay, that makes sense. And the focus of that rig is just basically to do what you did last year at El Ruby. See if if you see what you get in the system, see if it fits your thesis of what's there, and then move on so you can test the next thing.
Yeah, I think it would be at each target, give or take, somewhere around 4 to 5 holes in each target, similar to what we did at phase 1 at Ruby. Wait for assays to come back, but while we're waiting on those assays, we moved on to the next anomaly, and then from there we can decide and see what warrants further exploration. And if we have success and see the types of numbers we did at El Ruby, then that second rig is going to get designated to one of those anomalies and start doing the same thing systematically, growing in on kind of 50-meter step outs and at depth to add ounces as quickly as possible there too.
Right. Maybe stepping back from the drill program. Obviously, one of the reasons that I like the company is yourself and the team at the Balacara Group. Maybe you touched on it briefly in the presentation, but maybe go into a little more detail why having 4 companies under one umbrella makes such a big difference for you guys.
Well, and why it works. Yeah. First and foremost is the G&A sharing of costs as far as our office is concerned, and salaries and other things. There's not another junior out there that can afford to have 4 senior geologists working under the same umbrella together, and in the case of having 4 companies and being able to share those salaries across the board, our geologists are always all working together. They may wear different hats in different companies, and more of their time may be designated towards one of the companies, but it's invaluable experience that they have had from working all over the world, that they can bounce ideas, say, have you ever seen anything like this? What does this look like to you? And then they can formulate their plan of attack together. Above and beyond that, we have 3 people in our accounting department that handle all the books for all 4 companies. So again, you're spreading costs out that would hamper a single solo company that has to have a full-time accounting team and a full-time geological team and a full-time IR team and management team. It's just, for us, we can share those costs, and again, because of that, it allows us to put more of that money into the ground.
And I guess the other thing is that because of that, you have lots of, the history is you guys have lots of experience in Mexico. Maybe talk a little bit about your that past success and why you think Silver Viper could have that same potential.
Well, our past big success in Mexico was the La Preciosa deposit within Orco Silver. We put the first hole into something that was moose pasture down there and grew it to 270 million ounces. Our geologists have a reputation for having an eye for very good deposits and things that can grow, and our model has always been to focus on things that we believe the majors would be interested in. When we don't see that potential anymore, then we want to preserve shareholder capital and move on to the next one to test our model there. And we have worked in Mexico for decades now, so we're very familiar with the people, how things work in Mexico. We have a reputation down there, and I think we have the ability to jump through certain, issues that other companies are going to struggle with that are just stepping into Mexico for the first time. We're very well connected and we're respected, and people know that we do the right work. So we get permitted very easily. We get projects and legal stuff done a lot easier than I think other people may have in Mexico.
Right. I think that makes a big difference. And then I guess the last question, and probably what everybody wants to know, When would you expect? You mentioned there are based on the mentioned that there's sort of 3 holes that were complete, I guess, pending assays. When should we expect the next set of drill results from Silver Viper going forward?
Well, I would like them coming out every 3 weeks. I guess we're always at the mercy of the assay lab and how busy or quiet it can get. I would hope that the next release is out sometime either at the end of this month. That might be a little aggressive, or into the first week of February would be ideal. Again, we're waiting on assays. I know I don't have them yet, so we're going to continue to wait. In the case of us, we send it. We use Bureau Veritas. We send them to the lab in Hermosillo, who produces the preliminary gold numbers, and then from there, everything is sent up to the lab in Vancouver to do the multi-element analysis. So we get the gold numbers back sooner, normally within a week of everything getting to the lab. And then from there, it's normally another additional 2 weeks to get the remaining results out of Vancouver. That's the average. It can vary, but ideally we'll be going out with news roughly every 3 weeks.
Okay, so once a month, 3 weeks to 3 to 4 weeks. Every 3 to 4 weeks, we expect some good news from you guys.
Hopefully good this week, just like what we've been putting out.
If I keep hitting holes like the first 3 there in phase 2 program, I think everyone will be happy. So. That's it for questions that we have both from the line and that were sent in before. So I think we'll leave it there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and attending today, and thanks Steve for taking the time to present. And we look forward to speaking to you all next week. So next week we have another company on, Chalice Gold, at Thursday at 2:00. So feel free to please tune in then. Thanks.
Thank you.